before we get started, I just want to hear it one time. You ready?
Okay.
Hip, hip.
HIGGO!
Yeah! Let's go, U.S. Open.
Let's go. All right. It is one of the biggest golf weeks of the entire year. And we are your golf betting show of record. Welcome into a very, very special U.S. Open episode of Cash Out with the Coaches. I, of course, am the coach. He is one of the best coaches in all of the world. He is Travis Fulton. And Trav, we've got a lot to get into this week.
Yes, we do.
But I had to turn my phone off. You have been insufferable for 3 days. For 3 days. What do you have to say for yourself? I literally hit hide alert on my phone. The floor is yours, sir.
Coach.
The floor is yours.
And of course, we're talking about the winner last week. GARRICK HIGGO, 23-year-old from South Africa that we just didn't talk about last week. I've been telling you about this boy for a long time. I was saying, look, man, this lefty can play. He's got the total package. He made the cut at the PGA. He's going to come over here and play in the U.S. Open. He makes a little stop at Palmetto. And 4 rounds later, he is the newest member of the PGA Tour. 47-1. My goodness, my pockets are a little bit fuller here on a Tuesday. And Coach, my feelings were hurt because you didn't respond back to me. So I had Cody, our producer, put a little something together for you just to remind you of what happened.
Previously on Cash Out with the Coaches.
And there's this GARRICK HIGGO kid from South Africa, 22 years age, lefty. Wears these glasses, like it looks like a mosquito. He's long, iron game's good, he can putt. Go free will it, buddy. Get yourself another W.
A little sprinkle for GARRICK HIGGO. I'm definitely going to put a little bit on.
Okay. Now, Jonathan Coachman, I got a little something I want to say to you, okay? Since we've been doing this show, which has been a long time, and it is so much fun. It's like the best thing that I do all week. And you always tell me, you're like, look, Travis, you got to do the head-to-head matchups. That's where you win your money. So I've got your head-to-head matchup. I'll get back to that in a second here. Where you earn your stripes in this business is you've got to pick some winners. And my boy HIGGO is the third winner now, 47-1. But that's neither here or there. We've kind of worked that out. To get winners, to find those nuggets, you got to work hard. You got to outwork your opponents. And for me, Saturday, Sundays, I got to get up early. I got to get up early to watch the European Tour. I got to watch my boy HIGGO. I got to watch my boy Wilco. I got to watch my boy Guido. And you know what you're doing on Saturday and Sunday morning? You're sleeping in because you're up all night on the UFC fights. You're down in Miami hanging out with the YouTubers and the TikTokers. And I'm up in the morning and I'm studying these guys. And I said, you know what? Here comes this HIGGO kid. He's going to come over. And GARRICK HIGGO, congratulations. I'm so happy that the rest of the world knows who you are. Now back to your matchups. Your matchups. The best money I won all week was the $100 that I won from you when Dustin Johnson knocked out your boy, Brooksy. So I got money coming from all over the place. But you got to slow the train down. You got to get up with me. Let's get a little text chain going. Saturday, Sunday morning, European Tour. Because I'm telling you, there's more guys that are over here this week in the U.S. Open, Wilco, Guido, that are playing this week. They're awful good players.
It takes everything I have to sit here and say nothing. And I'm shocked that you had the money to pay for that T-shirt that you clearly had made in fast order after Sunday. Now, let's not even talk about the fact that Chesson Hadley will forever be on my fade list, because who shoots a 75 with a 4-shot lead going into Sunday to just hand it to somebody? Apparently Hadley does.
Hey,
forever on my fade list.
It all evens out. It all evens out. I had
Oh.
Morikawa the week before to win. The dude forgot how to hit a golf ball. Who would have thought he would have bladed a 7-iron in the in the playoff, and then it just worked itself out. Next week, there's HIGGO, and he gets it. So everybody, so before we get started, I just want to hear it one time. You ready?
Okay.
Hip hip.
HIGGO!
Yeah! Let's go, U.S. Open.
Let's go. All right. Let's finish forward. That was actually worth it. And for anybody wondering at home, no, I had no idea that was happening. None. Zero. Cody, you fired. All right.
Good stuff, Cody.
Let's move on.
Okay.
Let's move on. The 121st U.S. Open will be played this week, 55 miles from where I'm sitting right here, right now, and it is hot out here. It is hot in Southern California right now. You need to remember that at home. Take us through, Travis, a different golf course than what these guys play. I've got my Farmers Insurance hat on. I wore my special Patrick Reed infused Farmers Insurance hat. Normally they play this in the beginning of the year. This is a different course. Phil talked about it. Take us through what we should expect and the kind of players that should play well on this course this week.
Well, it's going to be a par 71 first and foremost, right? It's a par 72 at the Farmers. I think secondly, we know it's going to be much longer, 7,700 yards. I mean, this is going to be a big ballpark. Yes, the fairways are going to be running, so that's going to shorten it a little bit. But when the fairways are running, it's also going to make the fairways shorter, so you're going to get into that rough. I think the rough's interesting. We've both been kind of talking to Paul Tesori. He's out there. He's Webb Simpson's caddy. He sent some videos. He was actually on my podcast talking about the rough. It sounds like it can be very penal in some areas and then maybe not as consistent in others. There's been a lot of talk about the graduated rough out, of course, where you're just off the fairway. It's not as long as as you further get out, right? So you kind of go 2 inches, 3 inches, 5 inches, or whatever it is. It sounds like that's going to be the play on, about 7 or 8 holes. But then also closer to the green, there's going to be that graduated rough. It sounds like it's going to be much longer around the greens as well. A lot of different grasses in play. We know this kikuyu grass here with the heat can be much thicker, right? And that's what you're going to be seeing here as the ball starts to nestle down. So I think the rough obviously is going to be in play. To what extent, I don't think we really know yet. I think the USGA kind of plays that close to the vest. They like to maybe surprise a little bit as they get closer to the first round on Thursday. But make no mistake, the U.S. Open, all you got to do is go back to the previous winners, Coach. I mean, you go back to 16, it's DJ. Brooks wins at 17, 18. Gary Woodland in 19. 2020, it's Bryson. What do those guys have in common? Power, right? I mean, it's
game
power.
hunters.
Yeah. It's a power game. This is a power championship. So you'll see that certainly in my picks. Length has a lot of value here, but probably more than that, the power out of the rough. I don't think they're going to be able to chase it up onto the green like we saw at Wingfoot, that Bryson did many times. But it's going to be in play. If you don't have length, you're going to have to hit certainly your share of fairways, and you're going to have to be very crafty around the greens. There's going to be a lot of difficult short game shots that you're going to see. And then, of course, when you get on the greens, dare I say, Poa is back. And we know what that means because Poa is it's the wild card, man.
Yep.
You start looking at the splits with players and who putts Poa well and who doesn't. It's fascinating to watch. You'll see the ball bouncing, especially late in the day. But, you need the complete package here with the emphasis on power for sure.
And they are playing this entire tournament. It's great when the U.S. Open is on the West Coast because you get it all day, all day. Now, it's going to be 156 players, but normally at the Farmers Insurance, they split it over 2 courses on Thursday and Friday. That is not the case. So they got to pack a lot of golf into it gets dark around 8:30 out here, 8:45. So it's a very, very long day. But I saw Paul Tesori on your podcast, the Stripe Show podcast, and the clip that you posted on social media talked about that rough. Now, that leads us into our biggest storyline of the tournament and news that broke yesterday, which was Monday, that Michael Breed had Brad Faxon on a show, and he said that basically the USGA had called Bryson and his agent to ask him about the possibility of being paired with Brooks at the U.S. Open, and Brad Faxon claims that they declined. Now, whether or not that is true, that is being debated right now as we speak. But if it is true, Trav, then shame on Bryson for being soft, but shame on the USGA for even asking.
Yeah.
Why do you need to ask? Just put them together and let's see what happens. Your thoughts on that?
I wouldn't have asked. I mean, you know, I'm surprised. The USGA, it's your tournament. You can do what you want. We know ratings are huge, right? You want to drive as many eyeballs as you can. What's the number one storyline? It's Brooks and Bryson. So
Clearly.
you go into that, and if you did ask Bryson, I don't like that at all. I would certainly have put them together, put Woodland in there with them, and off they go. What are they going to do? They're going to, like, give each other a little, like, chin up and not talk to each other the rest of the day, and then it kind of goes away. But I'm not surprised if Bryson did turn it down. Not surprised at all. I think Bryson, I think Bryson kind of lacks some self-awareness. I think he can be immature, certainly. And I think this kind of speaks to that, if that is the case. I wouldn't be surprised. Rather than embracing it, certainly he's going to take on a few things here and there as they play. But I think as he hits it head on, then I do think it will just kind of slowly fizzle from there. But now, if that's the case and he declines to play, now he's just going to have more people. We're like, come on, dude.
That's exactly
like
right.
You're putting this image that you're this big, bad dude out there hitting the ball and all of this. And then you decline to play with Brooksy when you guys have this little tiff back and forth via social media. I don't like it. All the way to the USGA asking for permission. Give me a break.
It goes back to last week or at the Memorial, when a bunch of people were thrown out because they were yelling Brooksy at Bryson. And he said in his interview, hey, I didn't say anything to anybody. I didn't tell the security to do that. I'm cool with it. I like it when they do that. Come on, Bryson, you can't say that. And then, again, if this is true, I find it very hard to believe that the USGA, which historically, Trav, likes to have themes with their big-time groups that they put together. It's either the last three major winners, or the last three winners of the U.S. Open, or the U.S. AM with this particular person. There's always a theme with the big groups. So it would just seem natural to do what you just said and put the
Gary in there.
Winners, throw Woodland in there. All of a sudden, that makes sense. It makes sense. But now it's going to be a bigger story because he declined. And I don't think his agent or Bryson understand that by declining, that it makes it a bigger story instead of a story that could go away after 2 rounds. What would have been cool is if they kind of got together behind the scenes and says, hey, let's have a face-off at the first tee.
That would be great.
How great would that have been? Because this can't go on forever. But what if they walked up to each other and had like a boxing fighting face-off? That would have gone beyond viral.
Oh, man.
Beyond. Why couldn't we have done that? That's the entertainment side of the sport that we need. And that's what they should have done. They all should have got together and said, how can we capitalize on this? Not how do we keep this going? And that's how I feel about it.
I think the USGA is doing a lot of right moves. They've done some good hires there with Jason Gore, out there on the grounds, and hiring Mike Wan, who's going to be taking his seat in this very soon. And I feel like their identity, at least how I remember the U.S. Open when I was younger, I think Torrey Pines is going to probably give them the opportunity to do that. Toughest tests, push the limit, stress the player out, all 14 clubs, physically, mentally. And then you have this storyline basically just lobbed to you. I mean, just like, ready? Yeah. All you got to do is catch it. Here it comes. Ready? And it's like, and they just like, they can't quite get it all right, in that it just makes perfect sense to lean in, embrace it. Yes, a couple people are going to maybe get a little upset, but you've got the best storyline. And can you imagine like just being a part of that and not leaning in? There's got to be a lot of people that work for the USG are just like, come on,
It's all
let's
about leadership.
go.
It's all about
Frustrating.
leadership. And I see
Frustrating.
it all the time that until we have leaders that want to take chances, and this is not even taking a chance, this is doing what the sport needs.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to do this, make the decision, run with it, and not have to have 8 meetings to discuss it. Just go do it and move on.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of moving on, any other year, Trav, this would be the #1 storyline of the U.S. Open. The man who at 50 years of age
Yep.
just won the PGA Championship, coming back to a course that he doesn't play a lot, and explained why on Monday. He said it's just too busy because everybody plays it so much. But this is where he grew up. This is one of his home courses. He helped redesign part of this property a few years ago. This would be the cherry on the sundae if Phil Mickelson completed the career Grand Slam at Torrey Pines. You talk about a story that was made to be written. This would be the week. He's downplaying it, but you got to believe he's very, very confident after what just happened 3 weeks ago.
I don't know why he wouldn't be. He's won 45 times, so we know Phil's not lacking any confidence, both on and off the golf course. So he goes out there, hometown. There's a lot of pressure riding on it. Phil certainly accustomed to handling pressure. But if he's going to do it, he's going to have to career it really like he did at the PGA from a iron perspective, which he was +8 in strokes and approach, which he hadn't been that in years. And that came out of nowhere. And he really, he didn't putt that great at the PGA. He just hit it very well. And I think the one thing with Phil that was interesting is just that little fairway finder shot that he hits. He's got 2 drivers in his bag. Conservative Phil, like that doesn't even sound right. But when you listen to him talk, you can certainly hear a more conservative Phil Mickelson. And yeah, maybe I just hit it to here and putt from 30 feet up the hill rather than taking the flag on and then not have, it's like, wait a minute, is that Phil Mickelson talking? I mean, he's usually like, he doesn't talk like that, but I think you've seen more of that in his approach. And I think he's going to have to do that again and be very patient. I think he's going to have to hit his irons exceptionally well. But the one thing with Phil Mickelson, I'll tell you, is he knows how to putt out there, and I know we make the fun of the grass and all that, but he is one of the better POA putters. So if he does hit it good, why not, right? Like he would have a chance. I'm not going to bet him to win, but when you've won 45 times, 6 major championships, and you're one of the best players to do it, you can do it again. There's no question about it, even at the age of 51, which he turns on Wednesday.
I might sprinkle a little bit. Okay. I might sprinkle a little bit. This is the 1 week, and ultimately this is a golf betting show. This is the 1 week where I kind of veer away from what we preach to our followers all the time, and that is head-to-head. I like to make a lot of fun bets at majors. I think it's fun because if for some reason Phil got the job done on Sunday, how cool would it be if we actually had a ticket on that? So I'll sprinkle a little bit. I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it on several different guys for just the rooting aspect of winning a U.S. Open. Do you think, Trav, kids that grow up in the United States want to win the U.S. Open more or the Masters more?
The Masters.
You think so?
It's a good question. I think when I was young, it was the U.S. Open. But I think it's the Masters now. I think the U.S. Open lost its identity. I really do there for many, many years. I think they made a lot of blunders.
I do too.
They were the punching bag for many years. I mean, let's just face it. It's what it was. And it was not just in the men's game. It was in the women's game. The way they handled so many situations and the rules and like their punching bag. And I think now they've recognized that, like, you have to admit that you've got a problem. And I think now some of the moves they're making with Mike Wong coming into leadership, who did a wonderful job in the LPGA. I think they recognize they need a voice, a player to relate better with the players on the ground, and Jason Gore. So, all right, that makes sense. Now we can start making better decisions, and I think we're getting back to that. I think Winged Foot was good, and I think Torrey Pines will be better. But they bogeyed the Bryson Brooksy situation. But hey, once the golf gets started and we start playing, and we see someone run up the leaderboard and shoot 66, we'll kind of let it go. But, yeah, I think the Masters right now is clearly #1 in the United States.
It also helps, too, that it's become such a worldwide event, which I don't think the U.S. Open is nearly the worldwide event that the Masters is. All right, so those are the two big storylines. Don't forget, if you haven't watched our mega preview yet, it's in our feed at the SportsPub Media YouTube channel where you're watching this right now. If you want all of the storylines, you can go and watch that. For this episode, we're now going to jump into our picks at Torrey Pines, where they've only hosted one. And I was a little surprised. I was trying to think there had to be 3 or 4. No, just one U.S. Open. And that was 2008. Tiger Woods miraculously, with a torn ACL, was able to not just win in 4 days, it took him 5 days to get the job. One of the great stories of all time.
I watched the replay on Golf Channel. You know what was the greatest thing about it is Rocco didn't have any head covers on his woods. I mean, like, what is he doing? Like, he take his driver back in the back, no head cover. It just looks so strange.
Classic Rocco.
Total Rocco thing.
How would that have changed his career? Quickly, before I get into our picks, how would that have changed his career if Tiger would not have made that putt on 18 on Sunday?
I mean, forever. I mean, you're a U.S. Open champion. He would have been able to charge a lot more probably for all his speaking stuff that he's doing right now.
Wait, Rocco charges money for
and they'd be talking about Rocco, not Tiger. You know? And you know, okay. Here we go. You ready?
All right.
Here comes another shameless plug for the Stripe Show podcast tomorrow. Do you know who we have on the podcast tomorrow, Coach?
Who do you have on the podcast tomorrow, Trav?
Rocco Mediate almost won the U.S. Open. Not the U.S. Open champ. Almost won the U.S. Open.
That's right.
And yeah, I've heard it already. We've actually already done it, and it's great. And he is he's a trip. I mean, he is a personality. He puts it out there the way he thinks about it. I know his coach, his longtime coach Rick Smith for a long time, and yeah, it would have been a game changer, man. You know, you're a U.S. Open champ. You're a Masters champ. You're a whatever. And Rocco could have got that one big win that you could cherish forever, and it's always there for the rest of your life to leverage. As we know in this industry, that's a big deal. Now that, hey, Rocco, do you mind if you come on so we can talk about that time when Tiger beat you at the U.S.? I mean, it's like, damn, really? I just did it. But he's so gracious, and he's so entertaining every single time. That's the thing with Rocco.
Yep.
He could tell the same story 20 times, Coach, and it'd be funny all 20 times, if not funnier each time.
But he gets it. And this is what I've told the PGA Tour. My bosses who I work with, I tell them this all the time. Let me run a seminar to teach guys how media training is done. Because Rocco understands that not everybody sees every interview. He understands that not everybody's heard the stories. Right. He understands that is as entertaining as he is, somebody might see that and say, listen, I want that dude to talk to my group or talk to my company or whatever it is. He gets it. And that's what has made him so great off the course. Most players don't get that. They just think winning is enough. Winning's not enough. You got to be able to convey, tell the stories, be entertaining, and give people their money's worth.
Yeah.
Because there's never been a bigger time for appearances from the world of golf than right now. Right. All right, let's get into our picks for the week because I'm incredibly excited. It's always a big game hunter type of feel. You can always knock half the field right out of your door.
Yeah.
Because either they've qualified and they're an amateur, or they just don't play grinded out golf very well. They can't embrace a double bogey, which is what you need to do. Whatever the case, Trav, half the field gone. I find this a much easier tournament to handicap than a regular tour stop.
I agree.
I just do. All right, so here's what we normally do. We take 5 different bets, a fictional $100, 2 head-to-heads, top 20, a tournament winner, and then a wild card play that could be anything on the board. All right, your first head-to-head matchup, Trav, is what?
Throw it up there, Cody. Excuse me. Here it comes. Number 1. My boy!
Oh, of course. Of course we've got to have Garrick HIGGO.
Garrick HIGGO. Do I need to explain to you who Garrick HIGGO is before I get into okay.
God, no, we don't.
Positive 140 over JOAQUIN. What is this all about? This is a slap in the face. This is disrespectful. DraftKings Sportsbook, where I get my odds. Joaquin, for last time I looked, Joaquin Niemann's won one time on the PGA Tour. One time. That's it. Garrick Higgo won one time on the PGA Tour, but he also won 3 times on the European Tour. He's 23 years old. This dude is good. And he's plus 140 over Joaquin Niemann, who can't get up and down from 2 feet off the green. Perfect lie. Give me a break. This is disrespectful. This is the easiest money that I will make. You know, what's cool about Higgo, real quick, is you saw him, right? And he just was like calm, cool, and collect, right? He just kind of hits his driver out there. Looks like he hit it 230, and it's like, damn, he just carried that 310. Wow. You know, and then iron game so sharp. Coach, his iron game was so good Thursday, Friday. He missed 6 putts, probably inside 10, 11 feet for birdie. I mean, it was just silly how many he was leaving on the ground out there. I mean, it was crazy. And then his putter, he's just solid, right? And he makes that big putt on the 71st hole. He's got that gamer about him. Like, he knows the moment, that self-awareness. And that was a huge putt to keep him in it and made Chesson make Parda to get into the playoff, which he couldn't do. So he's a complete package. I know Niemann's a good player. I get it. Good driver of the ball, good iron game. His putter was a little bit on the heater, but I don't like the way he's trending. I think his game's been going backwards really the last 4 or 5 weeks. So I think this is a no-brainer. Back on my boy, Higgo. Let's do it again. Let's do it again, Higgo. I might play him to win, too. I have to wait and see.
Well, full disclosure, I played him in a head-to-head matchup every single day of the tournament. And other than one day when he pushed, he won every bet for me, which is normally what happens when you have a champion in the tournament. Yep. And I sprinkle a little bit to win. So I had him every single day. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Joaquin Niemann's playing what I call wishy-washy golf right now. And that is he might have a bogey, then it's a birdie, then a bogey, then a birdie. And he ends up right around even par. Now, if that's the case this week, that might be good enough for a really high finish because the USGA loves even par being the winning score. Now, I have no idea what the winning score is going to be, but I love this play. I love this play because even par normally is probably a +5 or a +6 for Joaquin Niemann. So I like Garrick Higgo. The only reservation I have is the letdown coming off of a win. We know that's real. But hopefully being a major will help him get up right from the jump on Thursday. That's what we hope. All right. Higgo! My first head-to-head matchup looks a little something like this. I'm going to go with the revenge factor. And Jon Rahm doesn't have revenge over Dustin Johnson. No, he's got revenge over the golf world, the golf gods. Everybody that said, you're positive with COVID, Mr. Rahm. One of the most devastating images in golf that you will ever see when a man's got a 6-shot lead and they confront him right off the 18th green to tell him, son, you're positive with COVID. Son, you're out of the tournament. Son, you just lost $1.5 million. Jon Rahm just tweeted out a couple of days ago, Trav. He goes, I've been cleared. I'm out of protocol, whatever it is, and he is primed and ready. And Dustin Johnson is not playing good golf right now. And I think Jon Rahm, even though I'm paying 55 cents, he's not. DJ's not playing good golf. He's just not. Last week, yeah, he had a relatively high finish, but that's because there was nobody else playing at all. Jon Rahm is playing at a high level. We saw it at the Memorial. Lay the 155 and take him over DJ $25.
I don't like it at all. I'll explain the reason why later in the show. You remember last week when I picked Dustin Johnson over Brooks Koepka, and you were like, whoa. And then you were like, no. I'll take Brooks Koepka over Dustin Johnson. And you're like, but let's bet 100 on it.
Yeah.
You want double or nothing on this one?
100%.
So you're taking Rahm over Dustin, and I've got Dustin over Rahm, double or nothing.
All day.
Okay.
All day.
Okay.
All day.
Okay. Noted.
All right. Next matchup. Like that. Let that tension build. Oh, it's all about the tension building. Oh, what do you got, Trav?
I'm going to go Webb Simpson, -120 over Daniel Berger. I kind of got back and forth on 2 or 3 head-to-heads, which we've been pretty good on this show.
Yeah.
And looking at Webb, I kind of felt the same way about Webb as I felt about Jon Rahm, who's kind of just stuck in neutral. He had the neck issue. But I think he's past all that now. And I think Webb's 100%. I like Webb Simpson in California.
Okay.
We know he won the U.S. Open there in 2012.
Correct.
You know, dare I say his best surface in putting is POA. And
what about the length, though? What about the length that you just
I think
talked
the length's
about?
an issue. I think the length's an issue. It's not like Daniel Berger. I'm not picking him to win, Coach. Daniel
That's true.
Berger's not exactly
you're
like,
right. My
you
bad.
know, it's not a, yeah.
You're right. You're right.
Daniel Berger's not exactly like Jerry James out there hitting it off the tee. So Webb Simpson, now I've lost my train of thought. Damn it. Minus 120 over Berger. Webb.
I threw you off.
Here's the thing. When we were talking with Paul Tesori, right, on the podcast, and he talked about how many wedges they plan on hitting. Not just on some of the par fours that they hit a good drive and then a wedge into it, but they know they're going to miss some fairways too. So, and then if they get a really bad lie, they got to hack it out to a number and then hit a wedge in. And Webb obviously is very good at that kind of game. His, the wedge game, approach game, he's very good around the greens, and he's a good putter, in particularly out there in the West Coast. So I like all that. But make no mistake, Webb's going to have a decent putting week or a decent driving week. He can't be spraying all over the place. He's got to drive the ball better than they did at the PGA. He kind of held him back at the PGA, but I felt like the rest of the game was very good at the PGA. So I think if he can just get the driver a little bit where we want it, I think the rest of the game will be fine. And with Berger, we know he's the driver's good, the irons are good. Like, we know all that. I just feel like Berger's short game is not good enough in these types of venues. I just don't. His short game is clunky. I do think he's pretty good on this surface and putting, but keeping those rounds together, right? Like, there's US Open. I think about I've got a good one going, and then I miss back-to-back fairways, and I got to get this up and down to keep the mojo going. And it's like, that's the difference between a 70 and a 74 oftentimes, right?
Yeah.
And the track record for Berger as of late in the U.S. Open hasn't been good. And I think a lot of that's the short game. So I think he needs more development there. I'm going to go Webb to move it out of neutral a little bit more like we saw with Rahm a couple weeks ago and get past Berger.
It's the difference between being a U.S. Open champion, which Webb is, and not being a major champion at all, which Daniel Berger also is.
Yeah.
And you've got to fix those holes in your game because they're good enough to win a regular PGA Tour event, obviously. But when you start to step it up and play the level of golf and the kind of golf that you need to play to win a U.S. Open, is part of the reason some players, you'll hear them say, he'll never win a U.S. Open. You've heard that about Phil forever. He'll never win a U.S. Open because of how he plays. And Daniel Berger, he kind of plays the same way. He is all out there, and he can go on a run, and he can have 7 straight birdies. But you're right. The short game can be clunky. And if you're shooting 4 straight 72s instead of 4 straight 70s, guess what? You've given 8 shots back now. And that's usually the difference.
I think Webb's going to do well this week. I really do. I think he's been kind of just nagging some stuff, and I think he feels good. And I know it's a big ballpark, but Webb Simpson is one of the top players in the game. He has a good driving week. I think he's 50-1 DraftKings Sportsbook to win. I'll be putting some money on him to win too.
Okay, very good. I like that number, 50-1. $100 will win you $5,000. By the way. Okay, my second matchup looks a little something like this, and I think this guy's going to be dangerous this week. Collin Morikawa, and I'm getting plus money for a man who just lost in a playoff at the Memorial. We're talking about XANDER Schauffele, who until this past Farmers Insurance Open never makes the cut at this particular golf course. Even though he's from San Diego, he never plays well at this particular golf course. And now you're going to raise the stakes, even though he's one of the ultimate grinders in the game. You're going to raise the stakes to U.S. Open level, and you think he's going to raise his game to U.S. Open levels at a course that he hates, or his game hates, I should say. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Collin Morikawa is going to be dangerous. I think he could win this week potentially, and you're going to give me him plus money against anybody in the field. I would have taken this bet pretty much against anybody, but I'll take it this time against XANDER.
Yeah. XANDER's probably more complete through the bag, but he's not the ball striker Collin is. right?
Mhm.
And Collin can just bring any golf course to its knees with just piercing ball striking. And I was optimistic in the way he putted at Memorial. Yeah, I like this pick. California kid. He knows he's already won the PGA out there in California, down in Harding Park.
Yep.
So, Xander's got to get one here, doesn't he? Yeah, I think the pressure's mounting for Xander. I just sense that. And, he's 5th, 3rd, 6th, 5th, last 4 years. We saw him at the Masters contending, and he's got to clip one off. He's too good of a player not to have a major. I just, how's he going to handle that? I think that's a real question for Xander at this point in his career.
Well, we talked about it on the mega preview, and Justin Thomas, the Xanders of the world, it's not that they're getting passes because they're performing well in regular tour events, but if we're going to be critical of other guys, we've got to be critical of guys like Xander and or JT who are not getting the job done when it matters the absolute most. All right, those are our 2 head-to-heads. Now we've got a top 20. Give me a player, Trav, that you think that come Sunday will be able to be in the top, beat out 136 other players to be a top 20 selection. What do you like?
Well, I don't think you have to look very far. I mean, Louis Oosthuizen plus 138. He was pulled up here, tournament history, 3rd last year, T7 and 19, T16 and 18, a couple 23rd finishes in 17 and 16. I mean, he's very consistent. Louis is a very consistent player. Am I going to bet him to win? No. He's never won in the United States. Isn't that weird? He's never won in the United States.
I find that so hard to believe.
It is.
I really do.
It is. But he's playing beautiful golf. I mean, we're talking top 20s here, right? So he's got 5 of them in the last 7 events, including the last 3. The Memorial is 18th. The one thing with Louis right now, man, is, he's putting good. But I think what I'm the most encouraged about with Louis is his approach game has really gotten better. And he started working with Justin Parsons about, I think, a couple years now. And you can see it, like his iron game has really improved. And, when you go positive 6.6 at the PGA, that's a big number. He finishes 2nd there, of course. So I think if Louis just continues to do what he's been doing, I think he's long enough. His short game's good enough. His putting's good enough. I think it's another top 20, which would be his 4th in a row in the U.S. Open.
The thing I love about Louis is when I picture things, I'm a visionary guy. I love to lay down and close my eyes and say, can I see this guy? And you know exactly what I'm talking about, Trav. When the U.S. Open went back to NBC and you had the graphics and you had the little at the bottom, after a guy puts out, and late on a Saturday. And there's just certain guys that you can imagine being, where it says leader at -4. Then you got that -3, -2. And it's that Louis always one of those guys that you can see showing up on that particular leaderboard. He's a grinder. Things don't bother him. A double bogey doesn't bother him. And double bogeys cannot bother you in order for you to win the U.S. Open. They just can't.
Right.
And he's one of those guys that can just let it go in the rear view and continue on and look at the end of the day and say, okay, somehow I was able to shoot a 70 or a 71. And that's what you want out of a top 20 player.
He's kind of like, you look at him statistically, he's a lot like Patrick Reed, but without the win equity. Like where Reed is the more prolific winner, when he sniffs the lead, he gets hungrier, right? And it's like he can elevate his game. But I think up to that point, when you look at them, they're all like, they kind of just trend a little bit above the norm in every category. So they can, so like if this is a little bit off, they're still so good in the other areas that they're going to be all right. And they kind of hold it together and this and that. So, so I just think, win equity wise, it's just not there. But I think the rest of the game is so solid and so consistent that it doesn't all have to be great. He can rely on other parts of the game and still grind out an even par.
Yep. And at plus 138, that's a great number for a guy just like that.
Right.
Now, my pick for a top 20 win this week is a guy that does have win equity when it comes to this season. He's one of only 3 players to win multiple times on the PGA Tour, along with Stuart Sink and Bryson DeChambeau. And I'm talking about Jason Kokrak. Plus 250 for a top 20 play is incredible value for a man who won less than a month ago at the Colonial, beating out Jordan Spieth on Sunday. He's still very, very underrated. He's showing up on leaderboards all over the place, and he's a guy that I would consider a sleeper because nobody's talking about it. But he's going to show up this week, and I think very much could be a top 20 selection. Lock it in, plus 250, Jason KOKRAK.
Yeah, he's speaking of improving, right? I mean, KOKRAK has improved a ton. I mean, 2 wins this year. Really, really impressive golf. And I think the biggest thing that's been where he's got to be the happiest with is the putter. I mean, his putter has been much better. He's, Poe is certainly his worst split, but he's putted well beyond how he usually putts. So let's see if he can continue that out there. Driver's been good. Irons have been good. Short game's a little clunky, but I think for a top 20, he certainly is doing the rest of it well enough. Let's see if he can keep the putter going on those bouncy Poa greens.
They're going to be very bouncy by the time the sun goes down on the East Coast and you're turning on the back nine on Saturday and Sunday. I love West Coast golf. I love West Coast U.S. Opens. But the big question is this. Who's going to be the guy that on Sunday night gets the job done and is raising that gorgeous U.S. Open trophy? Trav, who do you have?
When Bryson won the United States Open last year, do you know what his 3 starts were leading up to that? He played terrible at the Tour Championship. He played terrible at the BMW, and he played terrible at the Northern Trust. Was showing very little form coming in. So he comes in and he wins the U.S. Open with very little form. So this year, the winner of the U.S. Open, and my 4th win on Cash Out with the Coaches, not going 47-1, but your boy Dustin Johnson. You got to stay close to the chalk here, folks. Like,
you have to.
I mean, just look at the last 5 years, right? We've already went through this with DJ and Brooksy and Woodsy and Brycey and all these guys. And here comes Dusty. Right? Here he comes. Plus 15 or 1,500. All right. Look, I was encouraged by Dustin. I've been following Dustin's career a long time, and Dustin loses interest, folks. DJ loses interest. And when he loses interest, I think he gets a little complacent in the short game. I've seen it time and time again. And it just kind of filters out and he goes away for a while, right? And then you see kind of peak DJ again, right? It's like, okay, all of a sudden he starts driving it better, which I think he's past the driver. I think the equipment hurt him off the tee a little bit. I'll go there. But he's driving's much better. But his putter's back, putted good last week. And you're starting to see the trend now in the short game starting to go back up. And that tells me he's putting the time in the short game, right? Like I've seen this trend with Dustin so many times. And I think we're going this way again. It's U.S. Open week. Dustin Johnson is dynamic in the U.S. Open. It favors him. So he drives the ball like he did last week at Palmetto. And he just continues to sharpen up the iron play a little bit. It needs to get a step better, which it has been. And he needs to continue to sharpen up the short game, which it took a step better last week. And just kind of settle in with the putter like he has been. And what's interesting with DJ, you look at him, his best splits are on POA too. Like he putts the best on POA greens, and it's not even close. So, look, I like Dustin. I know RAHM's kind of the guy right now. He's getting a lot of the favorite, and Dustin's right there at 15-1. But I just can't get myself away from these power hitters when it comes to a win ticket.
Well, I would be foolish to say that DJ shouldn't be one of the favorites because he's one of, I think, 3 to 5 guys that can show up every week regardless of form and win. Yeah. And John Rahm is the betting favorite coming into this, plus 1,000. I think rightfully so. Thankfully, there's nobody that's a single-digit favorite because that would just be disrespectful to the rest of the field. But at this number, there is value in Dustin Johnson, and it's because of the way that he's been playing in recent times. So normally we say we don't like anything below the 2,000 number, but for the U.S. Open, we can bring that down to 15. I don't hate the pick. I would be foolish to say that I hate the pick because he's won one before, and when he dominates, he can dominate. So I will not say anything bad about Dustin Johnson.
And it starts with the driver. It starts with the driver with Dustin. And when he's going, it'll start feeding into the rest of the game. And I think we saw it last week for the first time in a while.
But my guy does not start with his driver. At least I don't think it does. You may argue with me, but my pick to win this week is a guy who, other than one really bad round at the Memorial, responded well to not finishing out at Colonial. And he has the best short game in the world. Bar none, this is the guy. And around this course, yes, it's a Bombers course, but I took into account exactly, I was not going to pick him yesterday, Trav. But after listening to Phil and talking about how the course is playing, it's much shorter than that 7,700 yard number that is on the scorecard. And so if he can drive it well, yes, but his short game is so good that he will elevate while other guys fall off. And for that, at a plus 2,000 number, definitely lock it in. Jordan Spieth for the win this week at Torrey Pines for his count at 4th major win and his 2nd U.S. Open win.
Yeah. Well, he certainly deserves to be there. It's good to see him back. You know, his only miscut this year was at the Farmers. Not that that matters, but just that's what you're up against.
How much do you think when you hear people say, because it happened, I called the Pebble Beach 2 years ago, and the whole week they're like, make sure you say it's going to be a completely different golf course when it's played in the summertime. It started to drive me crazy. I'm like, if I'm not mistaken, the tee boxes are still the same. I know the setup's different. How much will this course play differently than it does in the spring?
I mean, it's going to play differently. There's no question about it. I think really probably only the player can answer that, really. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, like what it's like to play both venues, and you know, the rough being this penal off the tee changes everything for sure in the way that they're pinched in, because you can't spray it like we've seen in the past, like a Leishman, and play from there and still get it on the green, right? So like when you start adding that up, it's a much different course. I think so. It's just more penalizing off the tee. Yes, the greens are faster, but yeah, it's the same green, right? I mean, there's some
same green, same sight line,
same sight tee boxes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a little longer. I get it, but it's just the fact that it's pinched in and it's more penalizing, right? I mean, that's kind of the deal. So I think you have to factor that in.
Okay.
And it's the same grass, right, on the greens. So yeah, I think there is some things you can take away, but at the same time, the distance, the rough, like you got to factor that in, and certainly around the greens, I think it's more difficult with the short game. So, yeah, I just put that in there for Spieth, you know, just to give you something to think about tonight when your eyes are closed and you're imagining that you can imagine Jordan Spieth missing the cut.
I try not to point out the negative
at the Farmers
of a guy that I'm trying to pick to win. So I was not going to allude to that, even though I thoroughly.
You don't have to think about it. I just wanted to put it in your mind so you can.
I know you did. I know you did. All right, we're up against it. We're down to our final pick of the show. Wild card. It could be anything on the board. What are you going with, Trav?
Well, I'm gonna push the ceiling here a little bit. I'm gonna go back to a guy that I've been touting for a long time, Sam Burns, plus 188. Trying to make you think here a little bit more. Sam Burns.
Okay.
My other boy. I have two boys.
You got a lot of boys, and they all seem to be winning lately.
I got a boy in Europe. I got a boy over here in the United States. But we've been talking about Sam Burns for a long time. It's been cool to see him finally, you know, win at Valspar, second at the Byron. No, you start thinking about the kind of player, right? All right, I need length, check. I need good iron play, check. I need a good putter, check. All right, check these stats out. Strokes gained off the tee right now, PGA Tour, 47. Approach 15th, putting 25th. I mean, that's like heady stuff right there. Around the green, 174th. Anyway. So
very important stat.
I think it's improving, though. When you look at them, it's improving. A lot of it, too, I think with Burns, it's just hit the shot at hand. Like I talked to his coach, Brad Pullen, about, it's like, what's his problem? Like around the green, so like it's just hit the shot that's required. Like, don't get cute, just hit it. And he can hit it. And I think sometimes maybe he overthinks it. And I think maybe he's making some progress in the last 3 or 4 events from short game. He's going to need that. I think it's good enough. Make the cut. I think his ball striking is good enough. I think his putting is really good. I think Burns is an underrated putter. Let's see how he does on the West Coast. He's a Southern kid. He's really, really good on Bermuda. I'm willing to kind of lob it out there. Let's take the next step, Sam Burns. Very talented player. I don't think he's going to win, but I do think he can make the cut and get inside the top 30.
All right, I've got to ask you this because I can already see the tweet that I'm going to get when this show is released. Because a lot of sports books don't have a top 30 play.
Right.
So I don't know what the number would be, but how for the person who says, well, Travis, what would you think about playing Sam Burns as a top 20 play? What would your answer be to that?
I mean, I think it's more of a stretch. You
Okay.
know, I think I certainly at 20, I feel more comfortable in the top 30. I even thought about going top 40. You can see I'm a little concerned with the short game with Burns around the green, but I do think he's the kind of player that can do enough there and really capitalize with his ball striking and his putting. And I think this is maybe a little bit of a projection pick with Burns because I am big on him, kind of partial to him. But I also think he's one of the more talented young players. But you could talk me into a top 20. You could talk me into a top 20.
The translation of everything Travis just said, just lower your bet just a little bit if you're going to play him top 20. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. That's all. We can still play it at top 20. You said it was a stretch. You were thinking about a top 40.
Oh, that's right. Okay, that's
all right. So my wild card looks a little something like this. Because I'll be quite honest with you, there's not a lot of players that I love this week. This is the U.S. Open, and most players just can't play this style of golf course.
Right.
So I'm going to go with COLLIN Morikawa, plus 220 for a top 10. I'm going to ride or die with my 4 or 5 players this week, and I think I'll ride. I think I'll ride because this dude is tough. Now, can he explode? Yes, he can explode. But we've seen him at the biggest events pull out the biggest shots when they matter. He can find a fairway. At the Memorial, even though he bladed essentially his approach, he found the fairway when it mattered. And this week, there's going to be a lot of shots like that. And I think he's got the skill, he's got the calmness, and he's got the game to hit those shots when he needs to. So get plus 220. I had to go to top 10 because I didn't like the value at top 20. So give me a top 10. I would probably even play him at the top 5, to be honest with you. So give me more plus 220.
Well, I mean, let's see, Morikawa, it would be his first top 20 in the U.S. Open. You know, he missed the cut last year, T35 and 19. But yeah, he's different. He's a different cat now. Like his ball striking is great. And, you know, look, here's the other thing to keep in mind. And the other thing I want to note is Matthew Wolff is back playing this week, who finished second last year to BRYSON. And this will be his first tournament back. So it's good to see him back. I think he's in a better state of mind. He's talking to people in his camp. I think things are moving the right way, which is great. And he's 225 to 1 to win, Coach. Did you ever think you'd see the guy that finished second last year in the U.S. Open come back and be 225 to 1 to win?
It should tell people how volatile this game can be.
It is.
It's not just the steeds of the world that fall off the face of the earth and have to come back. I mean, I feel horrible for Matthew Wolff right now.
Yeah.
It almost feels like he could – his career almost feels like it was over or could be over. That's how bad. You can't shoot 80s all the time and stay on the PGA Tour. But here's the problem. He has a victory, so he can play for the next 2 years. So I hope that he's back. I hope it was more the injury than it was he's lost his game. Because that's hard to watch when a player as good as him loses their game. And that's what it was hard to watch. Him shoot 81s and 82s and withdrawals and all this kind of stuff. So I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
What's the other thing to note here, and just kind of a final thought with the U.S. Open, is that we're going to have a decent amount of fans here. So that atmosphere that we saw at the PGA, you know, I think we're going to continue to build that, which is great. And I think that feeds into players like Phil, who's certainly used to that, like Rory, who has been very transparent about that. I think DJ, just from a mindset standpoint, I do think it's going to work against Bryson. I do. I think just this whole situation, I think Bryson's the one that's going to take on more of the mental, I don't know what you want to call it here. It's certainly going to get in the way a little bit because you don't think there's going to be people yelling at him, Brooksy.
No question.
I mean, it's going to happen. So it's not going to be great for him. Morikawa now kind of tasting it for the first time, right? This, you know, kind of major championship atmosphere. Victor Hovland for the first time, major championship atmosphere. Takes nothing away from Morikawa with the PGA, but there was no one there, right? So now you're getting the fans, and you've got a lot of veterans that I think are happy to see them back because they're not used to playing without fans like a lot of these young bucks. So it's going to be fun. That momentum, that energy we saw at the PGA, Coach, was awesome, and I think we're going to see it again out in California this week.
And now that the U.S. Open has moved back to where it should be, and that's Golf Channel and NBC, who they just know how to do the U.S. Open. You know, they just know how to do it right. So, and the fact that it's West Coast, you're going to see every shot of both featured groups from the beginning to the end. I think it's like, 10 a.m. Eastern time, and it's going to go until 9 o'clock at night. There is nothing better than a West Coast U.S. Open. And now you guys are all set at home with all your picks. Follow Travis on social media. Follow me on social media. You never know when we're going to drop a play on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, maybe a round play, anything like that. We're here for you. And also, our final thank you, as this is kind of our halfway point of the year, to our incredible partners and sponsors at SportsPub Media as we continue to grow with them. Give me a 15-second final thought, Trav.
Hip, hip, HIGGO!
And with that said, remember, the U.S. Open, one of the great events in golf today. And if you're going to cash out, why not cash out with the coach? Good luck. Hey guys, what's good? This is the coach. You may know me from PGA Tour Live, the Golf Channel, or even ESPN. I wanted to interrupt this YouTube video real quick to tell you how to get the best and most entertaining golf betting content every single week, and it's all for free. It's called Cash Out with the Coaches. I've teamed up with legendary golf instructor Travis Fulton, and he's also a PGA Tour insider, to bring you the unscripted, unfiltered PGA Tour betting talk and analysis. All you have to do is subscribe to SportsPub's new channel, and you'll get access to our Cash Out with the Coaches show before every single PGA Tour event. You can also play along with the coaches, too. We don't hold anything back on this free show. And all you have to do is subscribe to SportsPub's channel with the button on the video, and you'll have access to every single show. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Can't wait to see you on the channel.